I did a search of the term sex slavery, and this was the second thing on the page. I've already read it, which is why it's a different color. I sort of, clicked on it, went to it, and everything. I noticed it. I mean, I noticed it right away. I noticed the very, it's degrading. It is. It's kind of a long story about why that is, but there it is. Okay, so I went to the article. I read the article. Okay, so this person was pretty. I don't know. He was. All right, I'm going to read the article. Ready? The glory of the Guardian's approach to math and sex trafficking. I've mentioned before that the newspapers tend to be written by the arts graduates, therefore by those who have no instinctual understanding of numbers. I've also mentioned before that certain people are trying to make out that sex trafficking is a very much larger problem than it actually is. That second piece is here. We've now had a piece in The Guardian that manages to combine these two most undesirable traits. Blowing up sex trafficking into a very much larger problem than it actually is, and doing so by being near entirely ignorant of numbers. The piece is here, and it's about how there seems to be some 100,000 Vietnamese women employed in nail bars in the UK, all of whom are then forced into prostitution in the evenings. Essentially, my feeling about this article was, and the reason that I started to read it here, right, was this person may or may not have an instinctual grasp of numbers. He can't write, though. Really can't write. It's kind of shocking, actually, how bad the writing is. Let's see. A report by the Sunday Times, paywall link this week, detailed the growing prevalence of nail salons controlled by human traffickers and staff. See, that's somebody else's writing. Okay, so let's return to this guy who thinks that who is criticizing other people's reporting. As I've mentioned before, there's two very different things that go under the name trafficking. One is the involuntary movement of, usually, women into the forced sex trade. This is vile, highly illegal, and is slavery and repeated rape. It's also extremely unusual, as The Guardian itself reported when it revealed the results of Operation Pentameter. When all police forces in the UK did detailed investigations into brothels, streetwalkers, and escort agencies, they were unable to find one single person in the entire country who could be prosecuted for forcing someone into sex slavery. Do you think maybe that's because they're not really trying to prosecute people? You know what I mean? The other definition of trafficking is people who voluntarily move countries, sometimes to work in the sex trade, sometimes for all sorts of other work, including, of course, nail bars. But they move illegally, as most rich countries won't, in fact, offer a work visa to someone willing to do this sort of work. As we can see in that quoted paragraph, there's a definite intention to combine and confuse these two quite separate meanings. But worse than this, in some ways, is that the writer and, of course, the layers of editors the piece passed through just don't understand numbers well enough to see the claim must be wrong. For example, the best estimate of the number of prostitutes in the entire country, source The Guardian, is some 80,000. So we're really not going to have 100,000 Vietnamese women on the game, are we? And most certainly not some substantial number of Vietnamese children doing it. People really would notice if the number of tarts doubled, I think. It's not my feeling that this man is someone who has a lot of respect for women's issues, just from the start. There are other ways of checking such numbers. Given that the population is 60 million odd, 50% of which is female, the claim of 100,000 Vietnamese nail salon workers is that 1 in every 300 of the women in Britain is a Vietnamese nail salon worker. This is again something that people are likely to notice. And there's only 1,512 nail salons in the country. We really would notice if each and every one of them had 10 Vietnamese employees. Or even if each of these trafficked Vietnamese women is put out to work on the streets each night and has 3 customers, a reasonable enough number. Well, you think it's reasonable. Sorry. There we Then 1 in 100 of all Englishmen is having sex with a trafficked Vietnamese manicurist each and every day. These are just not believable numbers. They're obviously wrong to anyone with even the vaguest pretensions to being able to understand the world around them. Fortunately, The Guardian does in fact employ someone who can count to 11 without taking her shoes off, which gives us this article, which contains this quite wonderful point. There's whatever the wonderful point is that he thinks. Note that this is potential victims, not proven ones. There's an old line that one should never believe what one reads in the newspapers. I don't think I would go quite that far, but I certainly wouldn't believe any of the numbers that turn up in The Guardian. The people who write the paper just don't know enough about math to be able to see when they're being flim-flammed. Could be. You know, it could be. You know, I've never really been as good at math as I am at other types of things. My grammar is not always the best. You know, I will sometimes take liberties with it, especially because I write a lot. But I have to tell you, you know, you really, really can't write.